Do not visit a property without doing the first stage underwriting. The reason is because you need to find out the story. Once you're trying to find out the story, you understand that there are some stories that you do not have answers to. In PA, I don't even bother litigating my taxes because if I do that, I'll be charged more. But in Texas, I put it on auto. My house, I litigated. All the properties I manage in the Texas market, I litigate all of them. So each market, different stories, you need to find that out and you can get that information from the county. Welcome everyone to another edition of Ask the Multifamily Expert. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Bibi Ofiri and I teach people how to be financially free with multifamily. I am an acquisition specialist and an asset manager. Today we'll be discussing Mastering Multifamily Underwriting, key drivers behind solid projections. No matter how beautiful a deal is, this is the most important part of it. You definitely cannot manage a bad deal. It's difficult to manage a bad deal. That is why you start managing a deal from the acquisition when you are buying it. This is a very critical part of investing in multifamily. Whether you are a limited partner or you are active, this is important for you because if you're a limited partner, you need to know if the numbers work for you or if they have padded up some things. You need to question their assumptions. As a general partner, it will also help you do better in purchasing a property. So that is the beautiful thing about knowing about this, investing in multifamily. So I'm going to dive right into the different aspects that I look at. I call them the key drivers of multifamily underwriting. If you miss them, then you might have bought a bad deal. So it's important that you pay attention to all the key drivers and you'll be fine. Let me talk about some of the key drivers of your underwriting. One of them is your income. Income is a major driver. The second one is the expense driver. The third one is the financing driver. And the last one is the exit/return driver. Before we go into the underwriting, for me to show you how each of them can affect your deal, I would like to state that there are different phases to you holding an asset. You have an asset and your whole time, when I mean whole time, the time that it will take you to buy it, operate it, and sell. Let's say your whole time is 5 years. There are different expectations. There are different things that should happen in each of those years. If each of those years are not properly projected, then there's a problem. So we're going to break that down as well for you to know what are your 5-year projections, 10 years projections. For those of you that want to go and underwrite, there are some external factors that affect them directly or indirectly. It's not just for the numbers to look good. You also need to look at the market. You also need to look at the economy. How are those things affecting or how will they affect the income? Let me give you an example of what an external factor can do to income. One of the drivers that can affect income, that is the money your tenants are paying as rent. If your tenant lose their job, that will affect them. If there is inflation, you're going to increase rent to meet up to what inflation is saying. So inflation is going to affect it, either positively or negatively. Positively for the owners, negatively for the tenants. So you need to put that into consideration. If I'm increasing my rent, will my tenants be able to pay? So these are things we need to project for. You project for inflations. What are the likelihood of them happening? That's one. Policies can also affect. When I was underwriting a deal in May of 2024, and we didn't close until December. And while we were doing the underwriting, we were busy monitoring the election because we did election last year, right? Yeah, it feels like we've done it like many years ago. We did election last year. So last year, what we were really monitoring was the election. And because we knew perfectly well that those things will have, the policies that whoever is elected will have in place will affect. So we were expecting I'm not going to mention names, if a particular president is elected, taxes might go high, taxes might go low, tariff is going to blow off the roof. If a particular president is elected, tariff will not blow off the roof. So what we were doing was checking our underwriting, and when they announced the president, we went back to tighten up things. These are the likelihood of what will happen. So we went back to say, okay, is this really a strong deal given that policies are likely to change? So my point here is so many things affect the drivers of your underwriting and you just cannot box yourself. You need to look at the bigger picture. Your property is just like in the middle and there are forces all interacting with it. and you need to figure out how to maneuver things while you are operating the property. So I'm going to use the market blank underwriting to explain what I'm doing. For some of you that are not familiar with it, there's so many underwriting tools, but not all of them. I've not seen like perfect one that suits my need. I can walk around it to get exactly what I want, but I've not really seen 100% to a large extent what can help me on my deals. A broker brought a deal worth 21 million. So what I'm trying to do is to ensure that this deal is actually 21 million. And these drivers of underwriting are going to show me how. I always tell people underwritings are like a story to me. When I state the numbers, it tells me a lot of things that are happening. That is why I do not visit a property without doing at least the first stage underwriting. Let me reiterate that again. Do not visit a property without doing the first stage underwriting. And the reason is because you need to find out the story. Once you're trying to find out the story, you understand that there are some stories that you do not have answers to. So your visit to the property is to put apples to apples. What is in the underwriting versus what they are showing you, what is in the underwriting that they are not saying. When you get to the property, they are covering it up. These things will give you questions to ask. I've been to different tours and the brokers are always saying, oh my God, you are the only investor that I've seen that is asking a lot of questions. Some of them just come and just tour around and they bid you goodbye. I told them, I'm coming here to verify your operating memorandum. Operating memorandum is a package that the broker gives to you. It's a summary of what the deal is, the market that the deal is. In short, a summary about the deal. So they give it to you. Me visiting after doing my first underwriting to verify the numbers. I'm going to verify some things as soon as I get there. So I'm going to verify, first of all, my income. They told me this is their income. So the property is 21 billion and they said their income, that the gross potential rent, this is my gross potential rent. Please just follow me and I am sure you would understand it. I know some of you are not good with numbers, but see, I am very hopeful that this will be very beneficial to you and you want to really know this. Before I continue, as many of you that has not subscribed to our YouTube channel, now is the time for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The barcode is on the screen and it's good for you to subscribe to it because we always put our replay there. This is not the only platform where I do educational stuff. I do with other platforms, but I post them on this YouTube channel. This will help you get more educated because the more knowledge you have, the better it is for you. And this was how I started my multifamily, guys. I didn't pay for all these communities that you guys are paying 30,000, 15,000, God knows how much thousands. I've only spent 4,800 in my entire multifamily lifespan. And I can tell you for a fact that with my experience, I think I know a lot more than people that have been attending most of those things. And I learned some of them from YouTube. Use it as one of your tools and learn. It's free. You're not paying for it, at least not yet. The property is 21 million. The broker said the gross potential rent is about 2.2 million and the vacancy is about 5.68% of the gross potential rent. Concessions, loss to lease, bad debt is about 3.9% of this. And I have other income coming out as 514. What do I see based on the income? In this case, I see some stability because the property is at 5.69%. I see that, but I'm not going to stick with this because owners are fond of doing something. They start to prepare to sell a property like a year or 6 months before the sale. I'm telling you this because this is what I do. We prepare from the beginning, don't get me wrong, but the main preparation starts from 6 to 1 year of when you intend to put it on the market. And it's an intentional and deliberate act. So they will try as much as possible to start boosting rent. It's possible that the market is not supporting it. Another thing that they will try to do is try not to evict people too much so that their vacancy does not go low. You need to look in between the lines to know exactly what is happening. So in this case, I see some sort of stability in terms of vacancy, but I'm not ending there. I'm going to carry out a market comparable. Yes, they are saying there's 5.69. On the profit and loss, I'm going to check what it was 12 months ago. If they're giving me a profit and loss that is between July and August, that is 1 year, July 2024 to August 2025, that is 1 year. What I would do is I will go back either to the beginning of the year and see the trend. How has the market grown in terms of gross potential income? This one. In terms of this one, how has it grown? What was the vacancy like per month? And this is what I get to see in most cases. to 5 months, you see a different trend. So if you're not looking at your T12 is trailing profit and loss. That is the last 12 months. If you're not looking at it, then there's an issue. When I see that there's a shift between 3 or 6 months towards when they want to sell, that tells me I need to go more and do some research. That is where the market comes in play. I start to do my market comparable. I go to start verifying what are my competitors, what are they doing? Are they charging the same amount? Are they doing that? If I come back after my investigation and I find out that the market is exactly what it is, I'll check that box. Let's say I go and I find out that they are the only ones or just two of them in a market of 10 that are doing this, then this is super, super aggressive. That means the market is not here, but they are pushing it to be there because they want to sell. So this gross quotation range tells you a lot of things. So do not ignore it. Very important. I've seen cases where the gross potential range goes like this. It shows you again that maybe they had a period where the push rank, and before you know it, the market is cooling off. I've seen that happen in some of the underwritings I do. I see that there's a spike. It goes like that. Before you know it, it drops down. It continues that way. Then when they're about selling, it goes up again. I'm weary about that. It means that it's possible there's an inflation from the seller. They're trying to make the numbers look good because the number was up, it went down. So how come it's going up when you're about to sell? So I need to do my investigation. It's possible that they're correct, but I need to find out if that's the case. So your gross potential range, that is the market range, you need to verify. That is where exactly the market is. So don't take this 2 million, 2.2 million for what it is, because it might not be. Now, I look at the vacancy. The vacancy looks powerful, 5.69. I'm going to check the trend. My last 12 months. What exactly have they been doing? Is it because they are selling? And is that why it is like that? I'm not just going to concentrate on the vacancy. I'm also going to look at the bad debt. So I'm going to look at two things between the vacancy and the bad debt. What am I looking for? In the bad debt, I'm checking. Yes, there might be less vacancy, but some people are not paying. Is that the case here? It happens a lot, guys. We've seen cases whereby properties have 96% vacancy, but really, I go beyond that. The bad debt, the delinquencies, even the concessions will tell me if they're evicting people or they're just allowing people stay on the property just to boost their economy, to boost their occupancy. So you need to be careful. So let's say I went there and there's no issue. The vacancies is what it is. The concession, the bad debt, everything is what it is. That means people are not really owing. The next step I'm doing is I'm verifying with the market. I'm checking where is the market. All my 10 comparables, all my 10 competitors, where are all of them at? What's the average vacancy in that market? Because really, you cannot run faster than your market in most cases, especially if it's the market that is controlling it. It's a different case if it's an operational issue. Let me explain what an operational issue is. It's like property management of that property. For crying out loud, we know that property managers are not the same. Some are better than others, and they all can be in the same market, but one is outperforming one. And that is as a result of, if that would happen successfully, the market must support it. So the market is one of the biggest forces that affects your income. It's possible that we'll not finish it today because I want people to ask questions and all that. So I'm breaking it down because today's not for underwriting. It's really for me to explain how I look at my numbers. That aside, I'm going to compare what the market vacancy is. So let's say the market vacancy is 90%. When I'm underwriting, I'm not going to use 5.69% because the market tells me something else. I'm going to put it at 10% because the market is at 10%. That is how I'm going to start my year one because of what is going on. And don't forget, I'm also checking the trend. What has it been in the last few months? Has it been steady? Steady 5 points or between 5 to 7%? What has it been like? Once that checks the box, the other thing is I'm comparing with the market. Where are all the properties at? And you need to verify apples to apples. You cannot bring a C-class property and a new construction and say you're comparing apples to apples. No, you have to compare a C-class to a C-class. A new construction to a new construction. A property with amenities with the one with amenities. You must compare apples to apples for you to be sure of what you're doing. My concessions, I try to know what percentage of concessions is in the profit and loss. Are they really giving a lot? So I always break this concession, loss to lease, and bad debt into its own bucket. How many percentage of this 3.9 is concession? How many percentage of the loss to lease of this 3.9 is loss to lease? How many percentage of this bad debt is in this 3.9? Once I'm able to break down, that tells me a story. The story that says is this is where the problem might be. Let's assume that my concessions, loss to lease, and bad, everything is about 12%. And when I broke them down, the concession, loss to lease, and bad debt, I found out that the bad debt is taking about majority of the percentage. That is 9% of the entire 12%. It shows me that my business plan is, number one, I need to evict people from this. People are not paying, so I need to stabilize the property by bringing good tenants. That means there's a bad quality tenant on that property. The bad debt will tell me. So it's not just the bad debt. I look at the delinquencies. How long are they owing? So how we determine how long they are owing is something called age receivable. I'm breaking this down for the purpose of people that are new. Age receivable is 0 to 30 days. That is, if someone is owing within 1 month, 31 to 60 days is if someone is owing within 2 months, 61 days to 90 and above means that you've been owing for quite a long time and all that. I'm going to also check that to find out the type of tenants that they have. If I see that it's really, really bad, that gives me a cue to walk away. Or I decide, is this going to be my business plan? What will it look like if I have to evict like 70% of the property? That means my vacancy will be very high. My vacancy will be at 70%. That means during that period, I'm going to be bleeding. That means I'll be bringing money out of my pocket to pay my mortgage, because that is what it's going to look like. So you need to question your business plan. Do I have what it takes to accommodate this bad debt, or do I just need to walk away? So once you've broken it down, that helps. The next thing is the gross potential. Please, you can ask questions. I don't believe we'll finish this today. I'm going to talk about gross income, and also I'm going to talk about expenses. Then the rest, the financing part of it, and the exit strategy / the returns one will be in our next meeting. So please ask questions. There's no way we can finish this. This is very broad, but it's important that you know this. Okay, they're saying this is the gross potential income. They're saying that they literally make 2063810. What I get to do is, sometimes I get to verify this when I'm already under contract. I sometimes ask for bank statement to see if this money is really that. That would tell me that. Another thing I get to do is how to verify the actual income is I do another form of spreadsheet to break it down to see, is this thing really achievable? Let me see if I can show you guys what that looks like, because it's important. I don't just assume numbers. I always want to break them down so that they can give me the exact thing that I need to know. So let me show you on this particular underwriting. So for me to get the actual income that me personally will be making on this property, I had to break it down. I had to look at the rent roll to see who is paying what, how many of them are remaining to get to the market. What can I achieve in year one? Please go ahead and ask your questions if you have one. One of the ways I verify my income is I break it down. I look at the rent roll. What's the average lowest? So every time I look at the rent roll, there's always some people that pay very low, a group of people that are paying low, a group of people that are paying very high, a group of people that are paying in the middle. So I create them into different buckets. If these ones are paying this, if I renovate, do I need to renovate the units to bump those ones that are paying the lowest to come up to those ones in the middle? And do I need to renovate the middle ones to get them to the upper one? What does the market say about it? So these are some of the things I do to break down my numbers. So let's assume this thing pans out. The numbers that they told us in that order deal is correct. What do I get to do? I move on. So this is what the broker sent to me. I've not even started doing my own assumption. I've not. So when I get to the other income, what I get to check is, what are they doing to boost their income? Other incomes are other things you can do to boost your income. What are they doing, and what can we do to add to it? Sometimes we get to see that you might not be able to add anything because you've executed all the other incomes that you can think of. Sometimes that happens. And sometimes you look at the other income and see that some of them are not legal. That is, it's not in compliance with what the city wants. So it's possible that the 514 is a fluke. You might not really achieve it. So we also break down the other income. What are compliant? things we can achieve with the city. If those ones are compliant, then we'll take it, we can get it. They are doing ROBs. What percentage of ROBs are they doing? For those of you that do not know ROBs, let me just break it down. ROB is just you charging back what you've paid for your utility. That is, you have a utility bill, you pay for it, and you charge your tenant back to reimburse you. Sometimes in some counties, so you need to pay attention to this. Depending on some cities, some counties, sometimes it's not allowed. Sometimes it's allowed to a particular percentage. Sometimes in some cities, allowed 100%. That means you can get your entire money from your tenant to cover for your utility. The bottom line is that you do not make profit from it. You're not supposed to make profit from it. You're supposed to just collect exactly what they used. So given that, one thing you need to do is for your other income, you have to check the bill. You can request for a utility bill and check for each month. If they are paying, let's say $6,000, what is the ROBs that they are getting? So I'm going to calculate it. Let's say they are getting 4,000 from 6,000. That gives me an idea of maybe it's about 80%. I'm not calculating, I'm just trying to use my head. So if that's the case, the next question I'll be asking if I'm touring the property is, are we allowed? Is 80% the max or collect 100% of it? Sometimes the brokers will tell you that no, in this county, you can't. 80% is the max. 50% is the max. That will also help you plan. So let's say, for example, 80% is the max and they are 50. It means that you can boost it up an additional 30 years as you keep going throughout the years and all that. So these are opportunities that you can look into. You can also look into, are they doing reserve parking? How many tenants are there? Let's assume they're doing reserve parking and only 5 of them are doing reserve parking out of 100 tenants. It shows that maybe they've not been putting in front and center, or it shows that maybe there might be too many parking spots and they are close to the apartments and people see no reason to do a reserve parking since they have options. These things will tell me that. So when you're looking at the other income, you're looking at more opportunities. What are they doing and what can you do to it? It's a value add so that you can know exactly what can help you boost your income. This is in summary how I look at the package that the seller is giving to me. I've not even started talking about my projection. So let's see what I did regarding my own projection. So now they've given me this and I'm going to do some little findings to see, okay, is this achievable or not? So if you look here, just from a preliminary underwriting, look at this one, this column. If you don't like numbers, this might not be a good fit for you. But if you know you want to invest your money, it's important that you know and you can ask the sponsors or whoever is bringing the deal to use some hard questions to be sure that your money is going the right way. This is a sample, guys. So after I did my verification, I found out that this is the way they said they are, but the market is actually here. They are not here yet. So it shows me that, yes, I've been able to gather up some loopholes here. Then they said they are 5.69. The market supports that they are around 93 to 97%. So I went the highest one. I took about 7% of it. I'm going with the market on my vacancy. And for the delinquencies and all that, I increased mine by 5% because it's possible that I'm going to evict some people and it might take me time to fill in new tenants there. While I'm trying to bring in new tenants, my vacancy is going up. And this is likely going to be my year one. So that is how this is. Then if you look at the income that they said they were getting this, but I'm projecting that I'm going to get this. You can see the difference. You might think it's a little, I think it's almost 90,000 different. 90,000, 100,000 can really break a deal, for crying out loud. So I'm looking at both and I'm saying that, okay, there's a little discrepancy. My other income, I've not yet worked on it. I've not verified it. So I'm leaving it as easy right now. But my point here is that I did my vacancy based on what the market is doing, and I'm doing my concession based on what the market is doing, and also based on the trend I saw in the T12. I noticed that they were having more bad debts before, but because they want to sell, they are now trying to evict people and bring in new tenants so that the bad debts will quickly go to form a lower bad debt. So I noticed that, so I had to do that. This is for the income. Now let's go to the expenses. So I looked at the expenses. This is what they gave me as their expenses. So advertising, they are spending about 43,000, contract 115. The biggest factors or the biggest expenses are insurance and taxes. If you miss these two, you might be in for a big trouble. If you did not verify them and close on your deal without without verifying what your insurance is going to look like and also what your taxes is going to look like. In a state like Texas, we get our taxes in late September, early October. So it means that if you close on a deal before that time, it's possible that you might have assumed right or assumed wrongly. So what I get to do with that, I take what exactly they are doing, because normally they'll give me their tax returns, how much they've been paying for property tax and all that. So I get to see. But I also know that in Texas, every year, the properties are reassessed. So it's not going to remain the same every year. They'll always reassess the property. So let me put a caveat to that. There's some states that they do not reassess property tax till after 5 years. I think Arizona is one of those states. So assuming you are buying the property when the reassessment is set to take place 1 year after you bought the property, you need to watch that. So if I am in Arizona and I'm aware that within 3 to 5 years, my property is not being assessed, I have to take that into consideration. So it means that if I bought the property 2 years to the time that is going to be assessed, it means that my third year that is going to be assessed is going to change. It might change drastically. It might be very significant. So I need to account for that. For real estate taxes, what I look at is what the city does in terms of taxes. How do they calculate their taxes? How often do they assess properties? There was a deal that someone brought to me and the person said the deal was good and all that. When I checked the deal, yes, the taxes for the year 1 was good, but year 2, they were supposed to reassess taxes and they didn't put that into consideration. And they did that from year 2 to year 5. All was the same. I was like, no way. When I took it to my tax attorney, because I have a litigation specialist, I said, give me the projection for what 5 years of this deal will look like. Year 1 looked very good. Year 1 was exactly what it's supposed to be. But year 2, year 3, year 4 went almost double. And this person did not take that into account. So your real estate taxes, your insurance are very, very critical when you are underwriting. Okay, someone is raising a hand. Valerie, you can go ahead and ask your question. Like I said, we're not going to finish it today. We'll continue some other time. So continue.
I was just asking, I don't know if I missed it. So you said some states like Arizona assess maybe once every 5 years.
Sure, but I know that not every state.
In single family purchases, they will assess properties based on comparables or property value. For multifamily, is it based on what? Is it based on comparable or?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the market. So there's something we call tax rate. So it depends on the county for the purpose of responding to your question. In Texas, we have different counties with different tax rates. So it's possible that you are in Frisco and your tax rate is different from someone else in DFW market. So the tax rate is very significant to what your taxes will look like, right? So you need to take that into consideration. Another thing you need to take into consideration is what are the state laws regarding property tax? Do they reassess every 3 years, every 5 years? Like I am in the Pennsylvania market and my property, they don't reassess at all. The only thing that they do, so for example, if you paid 100,000 this year, we are going to add like a 2 or 3% inflation to it. Or they do not assess after you buy my own properties, the area I am in. So I don't know what they do in Pittsburgh and all those other locations. I'm in the Shippensburg, Childrensburg, Harrisburg location. What happens in those locations is that our property taxes are not reassessed. That's one of the beautiful things. That's why I love that market. But we also need to take account of the inflation attached to it, which is very insignificant, 2, 1, 3% depending. So in such a market, I'm not going to underwrite my taxes like I'm doing in Texas. Texas, they do it every year. Sometimes, because there are lots of properties, the assessors, sometimes they just do, in quote, rubbish. They just go, this property looks good. Let's give it this amount. So sometimes they don't do a thorough job to really assess a property. That's why in Texas, I think we have one of the highest litigation. Everyone, including single families, they litigate their taxes because they are all aware that these guys are not giving you the right value. They are not giving you. So since I know that I have to litigate my taxes, it's compulsory in Texas. But in PA, I don't do that. I can have the option to do it, but if I do it, it's going to go higher. It's the reverse. The reason is because a property that was bought, let's say 10 years ago, you might have improved it. The price might have been 5 million 10 years ago. Right now, it's 20 million. If they reassess it, they are going to assess it based on 20 million, not on the 5 million that you. So in PA, I don't even bother litigating my taxes because if I do that, I'll be charged more. But in Texas, I put it on auto. My house, I litigated. All the properties I manage in the Texas market, I litigate all of them. So each market, different stories. You need to find that out, and you can get that information from the county. They will tell you exactly how they.
When you say litigate, do you mean you go all the way through the court system or you appeal it?
You can appeal. Sometimes you don't win, you go to court, then you appeal. So it's a process. It is your lawyer that works the process, not you. But the first thing is what your lawyer does, because I've asked these questions. How do you guys do it? They go to get comparable property. So they do apples to tell your assessor that this is not correct. You are overcharging this property, the taxes based on other properties. This property should be at this level. So they say, and sometimes they accept it, sometimes no. So when they don't, they now move it to either appeal or to the court. They move it to the court, and there's a point where they get to final judgment. That is, you take it or you leave it. That is what it is. If you reject it and to unused, we've saved a lot of money. We've been able to move assess value from 13 million to 7.5 million. That's significant savings. Last year, one of our property, we got almost 100,000 back for one property. Another one, we got almost 50,000 back on another property. But in PA, that's not an opportunity. So I'm not going to underwrite a PA deal like the way I'm going to underwrite a Texas deal. They are two different markets. That is why I find it difficult write deals in markets that I'm not familiar with. And that is because if I have to do that, I have to understand how the market operates. It's not just for me to take an underwriting. Like I said, the assumptions, projections are very, very important. And the market most times gives you exactly what you need to know. So if you do not understand the market, how do you want to underwrite? Like you bring an Atlanta deal and give to me, you are the one that'll be, because I'll be asking you some questions. How do they assess the taxes there? What is the tax there? What's the insurance per door in that market? I'll ask you other questions. What does the property managers in that property, what's the amount that they take to manage 100? Because each market is different. That's why I don't like when people jump from so many markets. Today you're in Atlanta, tomorrow you're in California, next tomorrow you're in Florida. If you don't understand those markets, then you're buying yourself a bad deal. So I've decided to market at least for now. And if I have to go to a third or a fourth market, I need to understand the market itself before I take a move on that. So, Valerie, I don't know if I was able to answer your question. Friends, there are some questions in the Q&A. One of it is, I have seen a number of posts of rents going down instead of going up. This is a question from Bob. How would you consider this in finding a new property? Do you feel it is all areas or just certain areas of the country? Real estate itself, multifamily is local. So let's say DFW and Frisco. They're in Dallas, not too far from each other, like about 1 hour apart. You want to assume that each market operates the same way. No, each market are not operating the same way because real estate is local. So for a DFW market, you might see that maybe rents are reducing. And when you come to Frisco, you see that rents are increasing. Now, the question is, what is the factor pushing the rent to go up in Frisco? And why is DFW going low? This might be the case. When there is high demand and low supply, tendencies for rent to go high is there because you have more people demanding for the property than the supply. But in a case whereby you have all supply, less demand, then you see that the thing is flattening. So we've seen overpopulation in some areas of the DFW. I'm using that as an example, guys. I'm not saying this is the fact. And we have the Frisco market, not overpopulation in it. And there are few houses. In the Frisco market, you see that the rent should be higher. In the DFW market, because we have too many people there and the properties are less, it might be higher. So these are things you need to look at. This is not just the only factor. Sometimes taste plays a major role. In DFW area, we find a lot of older properties. And when you come to the Frisco area, it's the brand new properties. So it's possible that, oh, I need something brand new, not really populated. I just need an area that is not overly dense. Because of that, I will move. So those are things you need to consider. So to answer your question, Bob, each market is local. So you need to find out what is going on in your own local market. And one of the ways for you to find that out is through a local property manager. I try not to use a property manager that is universal because it's possible that they do not understand what is happening in that current market that I am in. So anytime I'm investing, I always look for someone that is based there, that understands the trend, what has been happening. You have properties that are operating in where my property is, and you understand what the market is saying. So they will help you navigate that. The next question is, how do you find out vacancy rate in that market? Any other tools, free or paid subscription used to underwrite? Yes, I find out vacancy rate manually and also through a paid subscription. Costa and Yadi, they can give you what the market is saying, but I always like to verify because sometimes they do not update this information. different. They don't update it. So while I'm looking at CoStar and Yardi, I also tell my property management company to go verify, to go shop. We call it shopping. Most times they go in and see they want to rent a unit and they go start asking questions like they're renting. So that's how we get to find out some things. But sometimes the property managers in those other properties might not want to disclose because they know you're just shopping, So you can also go online. If they are listed on apartment.com, sometimes you get to know where they are. Sometimes Yardi, CoStar, but be careful about those two because they are not up to date most times. The next question is, North Carolina usually reevaluates every 4 years, but it is dependent on the county. The counties don't have the same schedules. For information, South Carolina reassess at time of purchase. So you can see, buying a property goes beyond just, okay, this is what they are giving me. You need to verify and know what the properties are doing for that to happen. Thank you so much for your questions. Let me see. Is reimbursement income the same as ROBS? It depends. Yes. Most times they categorize it as ROBS because you are reimbursing the seller or the owner for bills that they've paid. So things that get reimbursed are things like pest control, light, water, trash, valet trash, internet, if you're using internet. So those things get reimbursed. So normally sometimes we don't see them as ROBS. They don't put ROBS, they put reimbursement. So when you see reimbursement, it shows you that that is ROBS. We're wrapping up now. Next time we're going to go into more details into expenses and also into financing. The financing one, you don't want to miss it because this can make or break your deal. I will show you how I underwrite. Despite the fact that I get my estimation from a broker, let's say a loan broker gives me at 5%. Will I underwrite at that 5%? Obviously not, I would not. So I'm going to show you how I look at a loan broker's underwriting because there's a way a lender underwrites. There's a way you as a buyer will underwrite. There's a way a property manager will underwrite. I use all these parameters to do my own underwriting, including mine. I add them all and I form one. So you need to understand where each of them are coming from because let's say you just went based on what your property manager is doing. They told you that in this market, these are the expenses that we use. In this market, these are that we use. And you forgot to check how the lender is viewing things. Then you might be in trouble because it's possible that the lender feels like that because the lender, they actually evaluate based on how the property is performing today. They don't do projections except you are doing bridge loan. So if you are doing a normal fixed debt, that kind of loan, they do based on how the property is performing today. But you might be doing based on performer. Your broker might be doing based on performer. So if the deal is not doing well today, that means it's going to affect the DSCR. DSCR is debt service coverage ratio. That is your loan amount. It's going to affect it. So it's possible that the deal might be good in year one. When you finally do the job, it might be good. But it does not mean that the deal will be good. It's good as at today, So these are things you need to factor in. So I'll be discussing the financing and also concluding part of the expenses on that. One more question, and whether has one more, they will call it a day. While we are waiting for that question to come, if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, now is the time for you to subscribe. It's Bibi Ofiri on YouTube and it is Blue Ocean Multifamily on Facebook. That's our group. For our page is Bibi Ofiri for our page. If you're not subscribed, now is the time. Everything we're talking about is going to be posted on our YouTube page. So you need to subscribe so that you always get an alert when we are dropping it there because we need to do the editing and all that. So it might not come in the same week. It might come in 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. But if you're interested in it, you need to subscribe so that you can get the notification. I hope to see you all next 2 Wednesdays. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.